In 1968, Russ Meyer released Vixen, and it was a smash hit. The following year, he released this film, which was also a smash hit. Both of these films made millions on budgets that were in the thousands. And during this time, Hollywood was doing the opposite. They were spending millions and making thousands. They were dying. And so, at the beginning of the 70s, Hollywood turned to indie filmmakers and lower budgets in order to not go out of business. This is what led to blaxploitation cinema, for example. Long story short, Shaft saved Hollywood. Hollywood also turned to Russ Meyer and gave him a 3-picture deal based on the success he had with Vixen and Cherry, Harry, and Raquel. So let's check out the indie film that Russ made before he briefly went mainstream. It's one of his sexiest films ever, and it doesn't make a lick of sense. Welcome to Exploitation Reviews, and me, Rob, and today I'm taking a look at Cherry, Harry, and Raquel from 1969. This film is notable for a few reasons. It was the first Russ Meyer film to feature Uschi digard, and it was the first Meyer film to feature full frontal male nudity, which was something of a novelty back in 1969. In fact, it would still be kind of a novelty today, which is totally fine. They'd look weird. So let's check it out. The movie, not the weird-looking thing. The film opens with a text crawl complaining about the activist conservative elements in society that try to police what kind of entertainment adults should be allowed to enjoy. Yeah, Russ certainly had his experiences with those. The chief thorn in his side back in the day was a fellow by the name of Charles Keating. He was a conservative anti-pornography activist. And he caused a lot of sexploitation filmmakers and magazine publishers like Larry Flynt problems back in the day. Yeah, but that's a pretty long story. Let's not get into it. I'll just say that Keating's story ends where we would expect most conservative stories to end. He was eventually found guilty of racketeering, fraud, and conspiracy and sent to prison. Conservative values. So anyway, I can't show you much of this text crawl because the text crawls over images of naked people. But it has nothing to do with the movie anyway, so let's go on. Then we get a second intro where a narrator tells us about how dangerous marijuana is. This narration happens over shots of Uschi digard sunbathing, which makes it rather difficult to concentrate on the narration. I wonder if Russ ever considered the contradiction in these two intros. If the state should let people watch smoking hot entertainment, shouldn't it also let people smoke as entertainment? Well, the truth is, it doesn't matter. Both of these intros are just filler, which I'll talk about why in a minute. Let's go on to the real movie. The sheriff, Harry, that's Charles Napier, gets a call that Mr. Franklin wants to see him. They've got some sort of illicit dealings, and Mr. Franklin wants to end the partnership. After their meeting, Sheriff takes Raquel, the girl Mr. Franklin was playing with, home. Along the way, she asks him if he's ever going to introduce her to Cherry, but the sheriff ain't too keen on that idea.
When are you going to introduce me to Cherry? I bet we have a lot in common.
I don't like women messing around with women. It's un-American.
Harry then enlists the help of Raquel's boy toy to go duck hunting. The duck, in this case, is a man named the Apache, who apparently has gone into business for himself, and that's what Mr. Franklin had a problem with. A gunfight ensues. They hit their target and he runs off into the desert, and then we get a shot of a naked and covered in blood Uschi digard out in the desert. Naturally, and oh my god, naturally, that's nothing you can see here on YouTube.
Man, I just work here.
But of course, we don't have to stay here. You can now support the channel on Patreon and get access to spicy versions of my reviews. Link is in the description. So is Uschi the Apache? Well, no. See, what had happened was that one of the actresses got mad at Russ and left the production before it was finished, and the film came up short of feature length. To add time, Russ added those two intros at the beginning I talked about, and added a bunch of random shots of a very naked Uschi kind of acting out the missing scenes from the movie. It makes for kind of a surreal and nearly plotless movie, which normally I don't like, but it's hard to complain about the lack of plot when Uschi adds so much plots. So the sheriff returns home to his gal, and they do what couples do, but instead of filming the scene in the bedroom, they're out in the desert. Like I said, it's kind of a surreal art house style film. Anyway, it was this sandy scene that angered the actress and caused her to run off. She noticed that Russ was putting on a long lens and then assumed that he was going to zoom in on some body part she wasn't comfortable him zooming in on. Russ wasn't doing what she thought he was doing, but she didn't believe him. And I suppose it would be hard to believe he was shooting her elbow instead of the holiest of holies, but Russ wasn't a religious man. He wasn't interested in the holiest of holies. He was a natural mountains man through and through. Anyway, it turns out that the Apache didn't actually die out there in the desert, and this is going to cause some problems. But since Russ didn't care about the story, and since there's not really much of a story here anyway to care about, that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. Well, this might be the Russ Meyer film with the most striking and beautiful photography. This desert location really is a sight to behold, especially when Uschi is running around in that location without any clothes on. In addition to the nature, we've got 3 gorgeous Meyer gals, and 2 of them at one point in the film get together. And that scene is all kinds of wow.
You're all shook up, aren't you, baby?
Russ didn't shoot too many girl-girl scenes. There was one in Vixen, and there was another one in Beyond the Valley of the Ultra Vixens with Kit and Natividad, but both of those were kind of comedic in a way. But the scene in this one is the only one of the 3 which isn't at all comedic and is instead erotic. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're just going to have to take my word for that.
What do you want me to do, draw you a picture?
What's more, this sexy scene, which the sheriff, remember, would call un-American, takes place at the same time that the sheriff is involved in a bloody shootout, which is very much an American thing. Was Russ trying to make a point about American values? Yeah, maybe. So we've got beautiful scenery and very beautiful scenery, and we've got that trademark Russ Meyer editing. There's a lot to praise about this film. That editing in particular is pretty cool. There are so many little insert shots. Many of them are of Uschi being Uschi, and it's just pretty fun. And it's this weird editing that gives the film its art house feel. It's not so much a narrative picture as it is a certain kind of sexy experience. And those are some of the best experiences, so the film does work, in a way. And of course, since this is a Russ Meyer film, it's also got a fair bit of the old ultra-violence. In fact, in one scene, Charles Napier was shot for real. Kind of. They couldn't get the shot to work before they ran out of blanks, so they removed the gunpowder from a real bullet and shot Napier. The gun guy made it clear that the shot should miss because otherwise it would be quite dangerous. They didn't miss, and Napier caught one in the shoulder. Apparently it hurt like hell.
I mean, do you believe that?
I'm shocked.
So we've got all the elements we want and expect from a Meyer film. Gorgeous women, nice scenery, fast editing, and plenty of blood, but the film's not perfect. Like 2 girls being un-American, this film has some shortcomings. Well, like I said, this film lacks a satisfying narrative structure, so if that's what you're looking for in a movie, you're not looking for this movie. It's not that there isn't a story, it's just that it's really thin. A dirty sheriff is sent by his boss to kill a partner who has double-crossed them, he fails, and that target returns later to cause trouble. So there is a story here, but not quite enough of one for 90 minutes. And I suppose there would have been a B story that tied Cherry and Raquel into this Harry story, but that was never developed, which is too bad because Cherry and Raquel are definitely developed. And then the added Uschi bits just add confusion to all of the above. But if you can abandon your desire for a story and just approach the movie as a kind of sexed up art house film in that abstract, maybe even European style, there is a lot to like here. A lot.